Hopefulness 3.0, March 18th, 2026. Oh man, I'm tired. Every day, it's clean this, clean that. Oh, I'm so tired. So much maintenance for everything, including the body. The body I'm worse at than everything else for the most part. This bread was definitely better off than the last run. The last run cooked fine. I just cut into it too early. Just let it sit overnight. It gets a nice, like, hardish crust. Oh shit. Hardish crust. And then the inside's nice and soft and moist and bouncy and cutting in. Like, I don't need a bread knife. I have this bad boy. The last loaf, this was hard to use because the whole thing was super spongy. This one, on the other hand, the outside, the crust, is nice and like rigid to the point where I can easily cut into it, no problem. So, all right, and then made some cookies last night. I didn't make them. I made the cookie dough and it's sitting in the fridge at the moment. I also cooked up some bacon so I can have it with some rice and beans. What else am I doing here? Trying to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. You know, the sad part is right now it's like 4:30. The video that I recorded yesterday took literally all night to upload. Like, it took the entire night. I was having the internet problems that I always have when it's doing that. And then I went to bed, I woke up, it was still uploading. So the video that you're gonna see from yesterday was actually uploaded today. I'm just like, why? And so I was like, all right, fine. Like, in the middle of all this, because I couldn't play World of Warcraft. I was disconnecting all the fucking time. I could barely do anything on the internet as it was. And this is what frustrates me too. It's so bad, it prevents me from doing almost everything. Like, I'm not, earlier for the last few hours I've been goofing off, still playing some games and stuff. I'm playing World of Warcraft. I'm on Turtle WoW, and they have various types of achievements that you can acquire, and those achievements can give you titles. And one of them is called Cartographer, which means you've explored like every nook and cranny of the fucking of the world of Azeroth. And I was like, you know what? I can do that while doing like quests and stuff, and I can because I'm also doing the Lore Master / Seeker of Knowledge. Lore Master is like 1,700 quests, and then Seeker of Knowledge is like 2,800 quests. And on one of my characters, I already have like 13, almost 1,400, and just got they've been level 60 for a while, but I just got the level 60 riding, which makes you super fast, so you can run around every fucking where and have much less you're in combat for fewer periods of time, as it were, just because you're just not dealing. You're just running past shit. You might technically be in combat, which is annoying, but it's whatever. Because I liked both the Cartographer and I liked the Seeker of Knowledge titles, and I was like, well, I could do both with those characters if I feel like it. The main issue with Cartographer has been finding an add-on that is useful. And even now, I'm still, the add-on that I have isn't really cutting it. It's helpful, but it's not really cutting it. So mostly I'm just using the internet. Because, okay, so one of the things they have an option where you type in period cartographer, or just period cart. And so I have that on a hotkey that I've made on a macro that also shows like how long my character's played, how many quests I have. Because if you type in played, it'll show you like how many deaths you've had, how long your character, blah blah blah, but also how many total quests that you've done. So I have that one, and then I also have the macro. In that macro, I have the command for the cartographer thing too. And I have like 50, maybe 45 now, I think, total zones to go to. And so what I'm doing, like, it'll just say next explored area. The problem is it's always on the other side of the fucking world. It's almost never close by. I'm like, you could have told me this, like, so, okay. For those who have played Warcraft, all right, on Kalimdor, which is where like all the orcs and shit ended up, on like the southwest section of the corner of it, basically, there's a zone called Silithus, and it's got a bunch of high level bugs all over the fucking place. Like, they're nasty motherfuckers. It's a level 60 zone. Basically, you shouldn't really go in there below 60. Like, one of the hardest dungeons is in the area on Courage, and so, you know, it's like being there is already dangerous in of itself, even at 60. And so the cartographer command told me there was a point that I missed out there. I was like, okay, cool. And then when I finally got that one, it told me, okay, the next point is over here in Stranglethorn Vale, which is at the bottom of the Eastern Kingdoms, where, you know, Stormwind is and everything, right? And I was like, okay, that's annoying, but at least my guild house. But then I was like, oh wait, because in this game, your guild tabard, the little, like, you can customize it and everything, it can teleport you to your guild house. And we have our guild house in Booty Bay, which is where the goblins are. It's a neutral area, and it just teleports you straight to the bottom corner of the Eastern Kingdoms, basically. And it just run out and all that. But the cooldown on it was like still active because I've been running around and shit. Because there was a place that I had to go up here, and then I had to go down here, and then it wanted me to go over here. Or no, it wanted me to go up here first, up in the Eastern Plaguelands. Up where, you know, like Lordaeron used to be, is where Tearsfall Glades is, which is where the Undercity is now. And this is, in Turtle WoW, is like classic WoW plus. So, like, there's no expansions whatsoever. So, but you still get like goblins as a playable race. They live on an island that's off the coast of Orgrimmar, off Durator. I know this is a lot of stuff for somebody who may not know what the fuck I'm talking about. But basically, it's World of Warcraft, old school, with some additions to it to make it more interesting. They even have like the high elves instead of just the night elves, and I'm playing a high elf hunter while I'm doing all this stuff, right? So it wanted me to go up near in the Eastern Plaguelands near Strathholm, one of the higher level dungeons, and this is a giant place filled with undead and all that shit. And then it's like, okay, now you need to go to the Goblin Isle and get all those. So fortunately, each one I got, you know, was like, okay, get another one, get the other one, get the other one. And I was already in the middle of exploring that anyway. The thing about the cartographer thing is that you can explore the map, but still not technically have all the explorable places. Which is frustrating. Because they aren't still, like, covered up. Like, the uncoverable places are large, and then there's pinpointable locations, and I'm like, is there a fucking add-on for this? And there's very much not, for the most part. Like, the one that I'm using kind of helps, but it kind of doesn't, because it just sort of pinpoints certain, like, the center of them, but it doesn't tell me that I've discovered them or not, which is frustrating, because I would think, like, I don't know, whatever. And apparently there was one where it was like, it's like called meta map, and like people would be able to provide info. It's kind of like the way that I understand. What the hell is it? Fucking name. I'll have to put it in a comment or something at some point. It's the Hideaki, or no, the Hiro Kojima game where, like, Death Stranding. So my understanding about Death Stranding is that when it first started, everybody had to walk everywhere. It was the basic, right? But because of the way that the game works, and I don't know exactly all the details, but like over time you could get like zip lines so that you didn't have to walk from point to point. You could zip line from point to point. And so it created this sort of like infrastructural like city almost in a way. And then there's also something about a giant baby or whatever the fuck it was at the end. Or just a baby. I think only giant baby's the end of 2001 Space Odyssey, which sucks. It's a gorgeous movie. It's also a terrible movie. Sorry, not sorry. And so, akin to my understanding of that, is that over time, you know, through the sort of, you know, the meta aspects where people start adding more and more details, over time, the add-on actually gets better because it's shared information. Just like a wiki, right? And what I found didn't do that, as far as I'm aware. But also, like, it doesn't show you necessarily, like, what you've discovered. And that's the biggest thing, is what you've discovered versus what you haven't discovered. Because I've uncovered basically every piece of the map that's uncoverable. Now I'm finding all the pinpoint places, which is annoying. And it's annoying because it keeps sending me to every fucking corner of the goddamn planet instead of like doing it, instead of saying, okay, here's a logical line. I mean, you know, it's the traveling salesman issue, but like at distance. And I know that's basically the problem in of itself as a traveling salesman. And that in of itself is just simply not something that can be truly programmed. But it could be. And if I knew how to, if A, I knew how, and B, had patience and wherewithal to code stuff, I would code stuff, but I just don't. I've tried it before multiple times. It took several classes to try to code, and I just never, it never clicked in my brain. Not like when I took radio, even though I didn't truly I still don't truly understand all of the details about how radio and, like, if you have a radio tower just sticking up somewhere, that thing is sending data in a sphere. But I don't know how that works. I cannot wrap my head around the geometry of such a sentiment. It just doesn't click, right? But I don't need to know that about the stuff that I did know, you know, when it came to radio production and the like. Because for me, it was more about the dealing with people and not even being like an interviewer. I was terrible at interviewing. I mean, I was terrible at all of it, really. I really was. I was bad at all of the radio stuff, but it clicked with me in ways that other subjects just didn't. And so I was able to, like, connect the dots between a lot of the things when it came to content creation and the like. You know, like, for instance, I was taking some acting classes at the time that I was still doing some of the radio stuff. And part of the radio stuff was a class called media writing, right? And so as we're going through it, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of my acting classes and some of the stuff that we've been talking about in acting class. And I'm like, hey, this all makes sense. This all is connected. And so, like, it made learning it a lot easier because I was able to see the through lines between it all that interconnected them. The problem was, I'm absolutely terrible at execution. But then, like, when you came to the technical stuff, I was still fucked. So yeah, going through that, and you know, not exactly the biggest of deals because it's, you know, it's just a video game, but it's still frustrating. But because I could barely even do stuff like that last night, I mean, I basically went against my own moral code because I was like, I can't, and the reason is I can barely do shit on the internet, and I spend a lot of time on the internet for good and, you know, bad reasons. But like, just uploading these videos takes so goddamn long, and so it's like, all right, let's see if I can get this $30 thing. And so I you know, I'd already unfrozen, you know, it's unfrozen for a couple of days, and I hit him up, and he calls me back, and I'm like, yeah, I want to do the $30 thing. He's like, okay, we need to do the credit check to see, you know, what else there may be done. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so he goes through the process, and it's going to cost me $100 up front. Fucking credit bullshit. Because I'm poor. And I don't have any income. Well, I kind of, sort of do, but I don't have a lot. But it's such a pain in the ass dealing with all of this shit. And I'm just like, I gotta wait until the fucking beginning of the next month just so I can have decent internet. So I'm probably gonna slow down on recording these and only record them on the days that I know I'm gonna be going out. So like tonight, for instance, I need to go to the grocery store, get a couple of things. I need to get more beans. For the most part, I need to stock up on those bad boys. Start getting some stuff for like spaghetti and spaghetti sauce related stuff. I have stopped really doing spaghetti. I have the angel hair pasta, which is also kind of the reason I stopped, because I found that it's just better if I do like macaroni noodles, just that elbow noodles, because those are really the easiest and better way to just do the basics when it comes to this stuff, because that's really all that matters. Just like meals that I can easily prep, that I can store in the fridge for a few days, and then eat on those. And so, like, for instance, I'm gonna try to do it this way. I'm gonna put some rice and like a whole can, maybe a whole can of black beans. I don't know if I can do a whole can. I would rather a whole can, if possible, but if not, it's whatever. You know, maybe just do half. But because beans are good for you, of course. But you know, like rice, beans, and then throw in some kind of protein. So right now, the cooked protein or the available proteins I have are either hard-boiled eggs or the bacon that I cooked last night. So I don't have any cooked chicken at the moment. Because what I'm going to do is tomorrow, I'm going to start baking my cookies, because I want to see if they're, you know, if I've actually succeeded in making the first batch of cookies. And then once I've, you know, I mean, I'm still going to probably just bake them all anyway, but once I've finished baking them all, then I can use the same trays, which are these little guys, the little quarter sheet pans, which I've already got some parchment paper ready for them to go. Then I can take the other sort of rack, if you will, of chicken thighs that I have and cook them on there. Just cleaning those motherfuckers after I do the chicken thighs is rough. And I gotta nail down my, rather dial in, I guess, my the cooking of the brown rice in the broth. I had extra, so I have this. It looks like bacon fat, but it's not. It's the remainder of the cooking liquids from the brown rice. Now, I did rinse the rice, but if you'll notice the sort of gelatinous nature of it, the jello nature of it, that's because it still has some of the broth in it. I don't want to waste that. So I don't know exactly how that's going to work, how it's going to taste. We will see. Because, you know, I'm poor. I don't want to waste anything. So that's the thing that I'm going to try to do. But yeah, I got to wait until the beginning of the goddamn month. And hopefully, when the beginning of the month does happen and I get my money, I can ideally also get that $750 gift card from the property management's office, and that'll help mitigate all those costs. So and I also have to do all these damn exercises that my doctor, the physical therapist, wants me to do, and I'm just like, I did all the ones last night. The bridge, the one where you lift your butt up a lot, I only could do like 10 of those before. I was just like, fuck, I can't do this anymore. He wants me to do, it's just 30, and I'm just like, I don't know how well I'm going to do that. And he wants me to do them twice a day, and I'm just like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to pull that off. But yes, today is, I'm going to, try to eat these beans, some rice. I got some lentils too. Probably need to buy some more of those as well. I just saw, so the plant sled, Liam, he did a little recipe for how to make like how to get more fiber into your life using lentils. And what he did was he used it in a marinara sauce, and I was just like, might have to try that. And so he cooked like a whole ass bag of these fuckers, cooked them all down, and then this is an excellent source of fiber. Let's see, 7 grams of fiber, 13 servings. That's a lot. Let's see, that's 91 grams of fiber in this bag that weighs 454 grams. That's approximately 1/5 of the weight of that bag is fiber. And so he had blended them up in with the marinara sauce. So I'm like, I already have the marinara sauce blended up. I could put it in that blender because I would need to. And then, maybe depending on how much the size would be, I could put some in here. And then I could use the marinara sauce for all kinds of shit. Mostly my pizza sauce. That's kind of what I use it for. Obviously have to add a little bit of like extra liquid to it just to kind of like, prevent it from getting too thick. Because when he had done his was still pretty thick. So, but I'm probably more than anything going to finish this bread up today. And in doing so, I'm thinking I need to clean that pan out. Because I didn't clean it out the other day, and then it was kind of a good thing that I didn't clean it out, because then I cooked all the chicken bones, and then when it was time to pull them out, I just pulled them out and put them in the pan. So made it easier, but so much cleaning, so much constant everything. Although the one thing that I did do today, and it didn't give me what I was hoping, which was the information that I needed. Although it did give me my birth certificate, because it's good that I found that. And a couple other pieces of useful info. But it didn't have like the paperwork from the other AT&T agent, so maybe in one of these other boxes, because now I'm down one more box. I have approximately, let me see. I got like 4 more to go, basically. One is kind of pretty much done. It just has a couple of other things that I need to kind of put somewhere else. But I was going to continue using the normal insoles for the Vessies. So I've sort of like designated certain shoes for certain activities. So like the Crocs are going to be this floor only, essentially. It's going to be for, like, I might wear them in here. Right now I'm not wearing anything other than my socks. If I feel like wearing something other than the socks, Crocs or the flip-flops. Crocs probably mostly for maneuvering around, but I'll be wearing socks from here on out when I do that. The Vessies are basically my elevator shoes. Like if I'm going to be using the elevator but staying in the building, that's what the Vessies are going to be for. So it's like leaving, going to the property management or going to the gym. But when I went to the gym the other day, oh boy, trying to use just the basic insoles and the motherfuckers, that did not help me one bit. So just the store-bought inserts, because those help significantly. And then of course my New Balance are the ones, those are my going out shoes. So I don't have a whole lot of shoes. But with everything said and done, if I gotta, my payment for this fucking phone plan happens in a couple of days, so it is what it is, and I'll just have to wait until beginning of next month. And then if I can get everything taken care of, it'll cost me $100 up front for my internet, but that's what this costs, almost. And so then when I get that set up at the beginning of the month, ideally, then what I can do is I can port it over to I can port the phone over to the other company, and I gotta have the internet set up and at least use it for a few days, maybe even a week, just to really see how well it works for my needs. Because what I'm gonna ask him is gonna be like, look, I'm looking at the 100 megabit up and down, and that's what I'm going to test everything on. But if I feel like I need more, can I then go into the next, can I upgrade, as it were, without any kind of real penalties or anything? Because that's going to be the general approach. Because I want to start small, because if what I have at the small end is what I need, then fuck it. Or anything else. Yeah, would it be better for like streaming and stuff? Yeah, but it is what it is. But with the $30 a month and the $100 kicked out of the way, and that's really only if I get the gift card. If I don't get the gift card, I'm basically fucked. And most of the time, my issues with the phone being the internet is when I'm uploading a video. So if I go out and about while uploading video, it uploads faster, and so it's not as much of a problem. So like today. And then I'll be able to get, and then it'll be April, and then it'll be May, June, July, August. 4 months. The beginning of next month will be essentially based on, if everything works out right. Once I get that internet, it'll be approximately 4 months before it's time to leave for Iceland. And that is obviously something I want to do. I want to watch this so that I can make grilled cheese. Oh, man. I'm just glad that most of my shopping is done. It does suck that I had to burn $80 just to buy groceries the other day, because I only had 70 on the food stamp card and I didn't realize it. That does suck. Otherwise, I probably would have gone ahead with the internet today. Even though I moved $100 from the index fund, I'm just like, that $80 just ate my ass. And I moved that money just so I could have a buffer. Because again, if I did that, if I dropped the $100, sure, what I could potentially do is do the $100 up front, right? And then try to port the phone basically today because the bill gets paid tomorrow. And so it's just not likely to happen like that. I got to go downstairs to check my mail anyway, but I'm just going to have to wait a month. Not even a month, fortunately, basically 2 weeks. 2 weeks and change. And hopefully the extra $750 will be there because that'll be a really solid buffer for everything that I need. And then, that'll just help mitigate everything, all my issues. Then I can move over to the internet and the phone, and then each month I'll be saving significant amounts of money. So, and that'll help with ancillary necessities and potential savings of monies going into Iceland and all that kind of shit. So, because what I want to do, I'm really debating on whether or not I should wait until I get to Iceland to get a haircut, or do it right before I leave. See, the thing is like I'm very much split on this. Like, I'm very much split, very equally. Should I go to Iceland or should I do it here? I feel like if I do it here, I'm probably just going to get a general snip and cut, and that's it. In Iceland, while I may be very wrong, I feel like I might get a little bit more personal attention. I don't know. Because, sure, I could do similarly what I would do out there is go to the hotel and ask, and I could go to a hotel out here and ask, but I don't fucking know. It's just that Iceland, especially even in Reykjavik, being that it's the capital city, it's still relatively small. The entire population of Iceland is smaller than Alaska. Alaska has 1 million people in it, and half of the people who live in it live in Anchorage. And Alaska's fucking big. But in Iceland, obviously small. You can literally, you can do a day trip around the island. Some people literally, they're only there for 2 days, and they're gonna be rushed the whole time. But they'll rent a car and they'll drive around the island and sleep at a campsite or some shit, or in the car. Get up the next morning and keep driving around and going and looking at shit. That's cool and all, but I don't want to do that. What I want to do is I want to just kind of more or less hunker down in Reykjavik, and then maybe take some tours that are not me doing them, of course. There's a walking food tour, I think, and then there's and that's just a local thing. And then there's other stuff too. And obviously the city isn't specifically just about tourism, but it's going to be during the touristy times. And that's another thing about Iceland is how what do they do during the rest of the year when they're not dealing with the tourists, when it's cold as fuck and it's nighttime and shit. That's one of the that kind of goes into the politics and how do you take care of your people when economically things are at a lull, right? Because where you're located generally doesn't have much of, and it's not to say that Iceland is irrelevant, it's not. It's just that for half the goddamn year it's night. More than half, technically, I guess. But for roughly half of the year it's almost perma-night. And so they have to deter, let's say you started with just 200 people and they were all in Iceland, and you wanted to somehow grow a whole ass country to the point where you have 200,000 people, right? This is one of the things that, I think certain people, when they have problems with immigrants, they don't understand where money and labor comes from. The money and the labor comes from the people. That's where it comes from. You don't need the gold standard to back your money up. You never did. It was never necessary. Because what is a promissory note? Well, it's in the fucking name. It's a note that you promise to pay for. It's an IOU. I mean, the dollar bill is just a regulated and recognized IOU. That's all it is. And of course, yes, it goes back to like credit systems and stuff like that. And I get that. Like, I understand that, like, from a global sense, the country needs to have a credit rating. And obviously, if you're a shitty person, you take out a loan or whatever, and then you don't do it, and you're irresponsible with it, and you're, let's say, in a small town, and you don't pay it back, and now you have a bad reputation. And that's part of the thing about money and finances and economics and the like. It seems strong, but in reality, it's very feeble because it's largely based on vibes. Which is why a vibes-based economy does work. As much as we don't think it should, it does, because that's kind of how it all worked out. Some people might say, oh, okay, well, you know, if I buy like 4 chickens from somebody, I gotta give this dude like a whole ass bale of hay. Well, yeah, you could maybe say, well, a chicken eats this much grain, sorry, maybe not hay, but a chicken eats this much grain in this period of time, and then you eat these chickens in this period of time or whatever, so I got to be able to make that equitable. Again, that's still vibes-based. Like, much of the world is vibes-based and not objectives-based. It's not really based in any hard, fast, specific objectively measurable, like, quantities. You know, you want to be back on the gold standard because it was an objectable quantity, but really, was it? How much is gold worth? And I don't mean if you go and look it up online. I mean, if you're looking at a piece of gold, how much is it worth? How do you know what the worth of gold is without other people's influence, without their vibes? If they all look at that and they're like, sure, that's shiny, and, you know, maybe I could put it on my mantle or whatever, and then I could, like, bring people over and show them how shiny it was. But if they don't see anything beyond that, if they don't see the worth of the gold beyond what they just see with their eyeballs, then to them, value of the gold is lower, and thus the value of gold is lower. Now, if you have more people who all, per their individual vibes, have all varied interests in that gold, and thus they may want it, now, if it's scarce, that's also an important part, if it's not regularly available to all of them, then we realize only one person out of, let's say, 20 people is going to get it. Well, then now they all have to, like, figure out what it's worth to them. What are they going to sacrifice to get that gold? Is it the guy who wants to turn it into, you know, like 1,000 pages of gold leaf? Or is it, you know, the lady over there who, she's coming up with this really cool, weird thing called electricity, and thinks you can move this electricity through really thin versions of the gold, and she's got the materials and stuff to do it, and she's done it to other things, but it just doesn't work that well, and so that's why people are kind of freaking out over her shit, you know. But she builds these like shitty things, and they're kind of weird. They're like her slaves almost, but like, it's a different word, and it starts with an R, and I can't remember what it was, but she builds these shitty R somethings, and she just needs your gold to then turn it into really thin stuff, because she's like, I understand, I had like a really small piece of it. She tried to show it to me, but she lost it or something, or I forgot, or whatever it was. And it was super thin, and she said, I just need like a lot of that so that I can make more of my shitty R things, whatever they're called. I think there's like a Polish word or a Slavic word, I can't remember. But anyway, she wants to make a lot of those shitty R's, and then there's like somebody else who, they want to heat it up and melt it, but then like add other metals to it, and then shape it into something that's like actually harder and like more durable, so that they can then put it, they can give it to their wife, and it like can be dangling from her earlobes for some reason. I don't know how they're gonna do that. I guess they're gonna have to shove fucking holes in her ears somehow. The metalworking guy who wants to turn it into the gold leaf, I don't know why he wants to call it gold leaf. He said it was gonna look like little pages or something, I guess because books had, leaves or some shit. But anyway, so like that guy could make like, small things like to puncture her ears with or whatever. So this guy over here could make the little dangly bits. I don't know. There could be a lot of reasons why somebody might want gold, or there could be very few. But the point is, gold doesn't have an intrinsic value. Nothing does. Value comes from humans. And value is not something that can be objectively measured. Now, we have tried to make things more objectively measurable, but it's still largely based on our vibes. And so that's why vibes-based economies still exist, because that's how they've all existed. And it's not one of those situations where we do it this way because we've always done it this way. It's like, no matter how much we try to change it, it's still based. It's like as much math as we still know, we still use base 10. Because we got 10 fucking fingers. Which in that sense, you could also say math is vibes based because of the 10 fingers that we got. I think I'm going to call this vibes based bread. Or something stupid, I don't know. That actually works because bread, money. And I'm sure bread was money at one point. It's like, yeah, if like 200 people want to turn an economy, if they want to create an economy and they want to create a population, jobs will happen. If there's nobody fishing, I'm sure somebody might fish. I mean, there's a great episode of Bluey about this, where they have the little kids in the first grade or daycare or whatever it is. And like, there's one, I think it's Bluey, who has a fish and chip shop, but she's only selling chips because she doesn't have any fish. And then there's the terriers who are like trying to protect everybody, but from what? And then, so like there's all these little niche groups that are inside this little room. And at one point, one of the kids is like walking with a stack of pillows but can't see where she's going. And so the teacher's like, terriers, protect the city from blah, blah, blah. And so the terriers, like, they're napping and they're like, huh? Run over there and they block the way with their little shields and shit. It's adorable. It's like, oh, okay, so they have a purpose. It's just not necessarily always the case. Standing army. And then one kid starts fishing, and teacher's like, I want to introduce you to somebody. To the kid with the fish and chip shop, of course, who's not been able to sell fish because they don't have fucking fish. And the thing is like, that's one of the reasons why it's good to make it to make life easier for people, not harder. Like when people talk about the whole like cycle of hard times create, strong men make soft times make soft men, some bullshit like that, which is just out of a book anyway. It's not even real. Making life harder for people makes life hard for people. It doesn't make them, it doesn't build character. It makes them have a hard time living. It causes a chain reaction of negative reactions. It is a positive feedback loop, but with negative outcomes, because positive feedback loop is the thing that continues to stack upon itself. So it creates a positive feedback loop of negative spiraling consequences. No, if you make life easy enough for people, then they'll start doing things they want to do, And then they might start doing some of those things in order to make money, i.e. work. You know, a fisherman who loves to fish and who wants to be out in the open seas is a much better person to make money off of doing that than a person who just happens to live in the area and is hard on his luck and needs a job. Because the kid who's hard on his luck, he's not necessarily going to be good at that job. And he's not necessarily going to enjoy it. And he's not necessarily going to be proficient enough to then potentially, get a promotion or something like that. When you force people into menial labor or into undesirable work, they don't actually flourish. And what you want out of your people is to flourish, because that's how societies emerge, that's how they grow, that's how more babies are born, that's how, more babies being born can also cause somebody to say, hey, I'll take care of your babies. If you have fewer babies, you also have fewer babysitters, right? And then also, if that person is too exhausted or injured or dead, or they're dealing with postpartum depression or whatever it is after they've had their kid, it's good that you have other people to help take care of that child. If you force everything that happens all onto the individual throughout all of their life, and they are not allowed to have any assistance, one, they don't ask for help, especially when they need it. I mean, I'm one of those people. I never ask for help. I should. I'm in a position where I should ask for help. I never do, because I don't know how to ask that question. It has been thrust upon me all of my life that it is shameful to do anything other than you doing it. If other people are doing it for you, then you're somehow fucked. You're somehow fucked up. But I'm going to see if I have it loaded up. I hope I do. I probably don't, though. Hold on. Might be on Twitter, but it's an image that I got from Imgur that I have loaded up. To all of you out there who think that asking for help is a sign of weakness, I don't think anyone's ever felt ashamed of asking someone to open a door for them when their hands were full. Now, as somebody who grew up in an environment that mistreated me, I have been that person who was feeling ashamed for somebody to hold a door open for me. Or being in a position where I don't feel like I can ask for somebody because maybe they're too far away or something like that. So I am a product of that kind of negative think, because I've had people think negatively about me. Oh shit, got an alarm going off. I think that's what happened with my other alarm the other day. It was showing that it had gone off and I hadn't heard it. It wanted it to be louder. Maybe I was just recording. But that is what makes a society flourish, is helping others. And, when people find, when the burdens of life are mitigated, they start to seek self-fulfillment. And through that self-fulfillment, they may find ways to help others. They may find ways to make more money, There are people out there who, I think I mentioned it before, the Sound of the Forest is an autistic person who's really good at drawing bugs. Extremely. They are photorealistic. She has a job doing that. How many people need photorealistic bugs? Well, not that much, but enough for her to make some money. But like, one might even say, what kind of fucking society has, you know, what kind of economy is propped up by that? But the thing is, it's like, that's thinking too big. It shouldn't be about trying to prop up the whole economy. It's just trying to prop up the local economy, whatever the local is. If it's 10 people or 200 people or 1,000 people. And that's part of one of the many reasons why we should, when we look at like policy, when it comes to politics and stuff, and then things like immigration, we need to stop being so focused on why we shouldn't do something, and instead sort of like rewind a bit and look at how these things would work in order to help. So if we had 200 people and some new person shows up, there might be a little hesitancy, but if we think about that person who's in their, if we try to be in their shoes, this person, this one individual has shown up to try to acquire help from 200 people. 200 people who could judge them, who could be mean to them, who could kill them. They have decided to be vulnerable to a larger population of people versus the potential of this one person exposing some sort of vulnerability within our community. And when we look at people not as enemies or as threats or as outsiders, but as people, as like extensions of the community, it's good to have some measure of cautious optimism. You still want some caution, because then there is the possibility of somebody coming in and harming your community. But that should not be your priority. It shouldn't be your majority focus. It should always be in the back of your mind, but be trusting towards people. Because the reality is that most people, not all, but most people are good people. Oftentimes they have, concerns that are weird or skewed or whatever. But when you sit down and actually talk to people, you're going to find it a lot harder to be mad at them. I know that. Hell, I think my phone's blinking. Oh, well, it's 53 minutes, so maybe I should click this off. So have fun. Also, pay people better.